All right, welcome back everyone. So today we will be building a React Native app from scratch. All right, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, so today we will be building a very simple notes taking app. Okay, but it will also cover the very basic concepts, right? Important basics, okay, for React Native. Okay, for things such as saving and loading data and navigation, and of course, let's not forget about animation, right? So there are a few things that we need to install. So without further ado, let's jump to our terminal. All right, so terminal, let's go. All right, so now we are in our terminal, okay, and we are in a directory called mobile projects. So this is where I have all my mobile projects. Okay, so we're going to create a new empty React Native project directory. Okay, so to do that, we can say npx space react dash native init. All right, and let's give our app a name. Let's say notes. All right, notes taking app. Right, a very simple name. Right, and because we will be using TypeScript with it, so we'll say dash dash template space react dash native dash template dash TypeScript. All right, enter. All right, so we will say yes to that. Okay, so this will take a while. Okay, and we'll be back once this is done. Yeah. All right, and we're back. Okay, with our React Native project created. Okay, let me just clear this so you can see what we are typing here. Okay, next, let's go into the project directory. So cd notes taking app. All right, so if we do a list, here you'll see all the files that have been generated by React Native itself. All right. Okay, let's clear that once again. Okay, so the first thing that we have to install is Tailwind, or rather Nativewind, which is the React Native version of Tailwind CSS. Right, so yarn add Nativewind. All right, enter. Okay, let's wait for that to complete, which shouldn't take long. Okay, and that's done as well. All right, so for Nativewind, obviously we need to install Tailwind as well, right? So Tailwind, right? Yarn add dash dash dev Tailwind, right? Let me just check to see if that is correct, right? So it's Tailwind CSS, right? So Tailwind CSS, enter. All right, that is done as well. Let's clear that. All right. Okay, next we need to do an initialization of Tailwind CSS, right? So this is part of the configuration of Nativewind, right? So let's do npx Tailwind CSS init, all right? Enter. Right, so you can see that Tailwind CSS generated a config file called tailwind.config.js for us, all right? So we'll edit this file later, because we still need to install some packages as well, right? So we'll be at the terminal for a while, right? So let's clear that. Okay, next we will need React navigation, right? So this is what you need to navigate between screens, yeah? Or even have your side drawer menu appear. Yeah, so this is where React navigation comes in, right? Right, so let's install that. Okay, first we need to do yarn add react dash navigation slash native. All right, enter. All right, shouldn't take long as well. Okay, that's fast. Okay, next we need yarn add react dash navigation slash native dash stack. Right, so this is required for creation of stack navigators, right, which is required right? When you want to navigate between different menus or different screens, yeah, in a stack. Okay, we'll explain more later. Yeah, so enter. And this shouldn't take too long as well, yeah. And that is done as well. All right, so now for React navigation, it does require some other dependencies as well, right? So we also need to install yarn add react-native-screens, all right? And also react-native-safe-area-context. And we also need react-native-gesture-handler, all right? So hopefully this shouldn't take long. Okay, we'll be back once this is done, yeah? Okay, and we're back. Okay, and we have installed the 3 packages. Okay, let's clear that. All right, so next we need to install React Native MMKV. Right, so React Native MMKV is a very strong contender or alternative, right, to async storage. Yeah, so this is what you use, right, for your, or rather, I would recommend you use this, right, to save and load data on your mobile app. Right, so we're going to install that. So once again, yarn space add, okay, react-native-mmkv, enter. Right, that shouldn't take too long. All right, that's done. Clear that. All right. So next, okay, we need something called React Native UUID. Right, so this is for us to generate a very unique ID for each node, right, that we are going to save in your mobile app. Right, so yarn add react-native-UUID. Right, enter. Right, that shouldn't take too long as well, and we're done. Right, clear that again. Okay. So lastly, for animation, right? For animation, you might have heard of this library before. Okay, but we are going to install React Native Reanimated, right? Which right now it should be version 2. Yeah, so yarn add react-native-reanimated, right? Enter. Right, that shouldn't take too long. All right, and we're done. All right, let's clear that. Okay, so now before we actually run the command or the command to start the iOS simulator, okay, which we will be using a lot, okay, throughout this whole app development process. Okay, let's go into the iOS directory first. So cd iOS, okay, and do a port install. Right, so this is required especially for iOS development so that the React Native app can install all the iOS dependencies, right, and generate the pod project, okay, for your iOS app. Yeah, okay, and that is done. And let's clear that. Let's go back to the root directory here. Yeah, so now that that is done, okay, we will have to jump over to our VS Code to do some further configurations of Tailwind and React Native Reanimated, right? So that we can have good styles via Tailwind and animations, right? Via React Native Reanimated, right? So let's jump over to our VS Code over here. Right, so we're going to open the directory that we just created. So open here. Okay, so you might not see the pop-up, but let's open the note-taking app that we just created. So that will be under here. Right, so you can see above me, yeah. Okay, we have a lot of files that have been generated, okay, by React Native. Okay, and you might be wondering, okay, why is there a black space here all the way on the right? Okay, we will be saving that space for the iOS simulator, all right? So yeah, later you will see it, all right? Okay, so for example, if we go to our app.tsx, Okay, you can see that this is also one of the files generated by React Native. Yeah. Okay, but first, okay, we need to set up Tailwind CSS. Right. So to do so, let's go to tailwind.config.js. All right. So over here, okay, in the module.exports, okay, and we'll need to modify the content array itself. All right. So let's copy over and paste over that. Okay, I will put the link to the Tailwind and NativeWind instructions, right, in the description box below as well. All right. Okay. So we'll just change it to single quotes here. Yeah, no worries about that. Yep. Right, and save. Okay, we will also need to edit the Babel config file. So babel.config.js. Okay, and we will need to add a plugins array right over here. Okay, same thing here. Single quotes, right? Save. All right. And that should do it for Tailwind. Okay, so next we need to configure React Native Reanimated. All right. So let's do that next. Okay, and for that, okay, we will need to also modify babel.config.js. And since we are here, okay, we're just going to modify these plugins here. All right, same thing, right? Right. So once again, I will also copy and paste the link to the React Native Reanimated documentation in the description boxes below, right, or one of the pinned comments, right? So remember to add, right, the plugin for React Native Reanimated as the last, okay, plugin, okay, for Babel config. All right. All right, save that. All right, let's make sure that we have it all in one line. Yeah. All right, and save. All right. Okay, next. Okay, what we have to do next is to go back to our terminal. All right, and kickstart our iOS simulator. Let's go. All right, so we are in our terminal now. And okay, in order for you to run your iOS simulator, okay, make sure you're in the root directory, right? So you can check if you're in the root directory by doing a list directory, or if you're on Windows, that'll be dir, yeah. And once you have entered that command, you can see that there is an iOS and Android subdirectory, right? So this means that you are in the root directory. All right, let's clear that. And once you're in the root directory, we can do react-native run-android iOS. Yeah. Oopsie. Right, so react-native run-iOS. Right, enter. And this will take a while to run. Yeah, and we'll be back once the iOS simulator is up and running. All right, we're back and the iOS simulator is up and running, right? So let's jump over to our VS Code and our iOS simulator. Let's go. Right, so if you see on the right, all the way to the right, right, you see the iOS simulator running, right? And if we go to our app.tsx, right, you will see that, okay, whatever we have in the code is actually reflected on the right in the iOS simulator. All right. Yeah. So for example, okay, you can see that, okay, right under Welcome to React Native, it says step 1. Okay, it also says edit app.tsx, right, to change the screen. So for example, if we remove this whole section here, right? Okay, and we save. Okay, notice that whole section disappears. Yeah. So this is one of the benefits of working with React Native, right? One of the very good feature where it instantly reloads, okay, and show you on the fly the changes that you have made. All right. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started with creating our very simple notes taking app. Right, so first thing first, we need to clear some useless or other stuff that we do not need here. Right, so for example, okay, we do not need this whole section here. Okay, I'm going to remove that. All right. Okay, and of course, we're going to save that. Save. And as you can see, this means that we do not need this anymore. Okay, let's remove that as well. Okay. And okay, let's remove all the stuff that we are not importing. Okay, we are totally not importing at all. Yeah. So let's remove those as well. Save. All right. And save that as well. All right. Okay, we do not need this scroll view as well. So let's remove that. Okay, now our app is kind of empty. Okay, but it is fine because okay, we will add stuff from here. Right. So to begin with, okay, usually I would like to create an app directory that where we will put all your components, your screens, your navigation and whatnot. Yeah. So under the app directory, okay, right above me, yeah. Okay, we will create another directory called components. All right. And under the app directory, okay, we will also create another folder called screens and another folder called navigation. Yeah. So this is where we will put our navigation stuff. All right. We will also create another folder under app. Let's call this data. Right. So this is where we will put our mmkv and saving and loading data stuff right over here. All right. So first thing first, we will create two screens. Yeah. So a home screen that will display a list of the notes that you have in your mobile app. Okay. And another screen to allow you or any user of your app to add a new note. All right. So for that, we'll create a new directory under screens. Okay, let's call this home. Okay, and we will create a new file. Let's call this home screen.tsx. All right. Okay, so now that we're in our home screen.tsx, all right. Okay, let's create the home screen component. Right. So I do have a code snippet, right, set up beforehand. So this will save you a lot of time because you can do something like this. RNFC. Okay, you will see that, right, VS Code knows that this is something that you can use or something that you have configured previously. Okay, and once I press tab, okay, notice that a lot of boilerplate code has been generated. All right. So this will save you a lot of time in the long run. Right. So I do have another video, okay, on code snippets. Okay, I'll put it somewhere around here. Yeah. Yeah. Or in the description box below. Right. So be sure to check that out as well. Right. So I'm going to say home screen props and home screen. Okay. And view. Okay. So if you're coming from a React background, or if you are a aspiring web designer or developer, you might be used to div, right? Okay, but in React Native, we use view. Yeah. All right. So now that we have generated our home screen component, okay, how do we know if we are actually able to use it? All right. So for example, if you want to display text, right, in React Native, okay, you need to wrap it around text. Okay, so we can say hello from home screen, for example. All right, save that. Okay, And let's go back to our app.tsx, right? So in app.tsx, okay, we can say home screen and save. So you'll see, okay, all the way at the top, okay, of our iOS simulator, you'll see that we have a hello from home screen, right? So this means that it is working, all right? Okay, now let's go back to our home screen. Or rather, let's remove it. Okay, let's remove home screen here for now, okay, because we will also need to create our screen to allow us to add a new node. Right? So under screens, okay, we are going to create another folder. Okay, let's call this nodes. Okay, and of course, we are going to create a new component here. Let's call this add node screen.tsx. All right. So once again, rnfc and add node screen props, and this will be obviously add node screen. All right. This will be view. And save. All right. So you might be wondering what is with all the red curly underlines, right? So that is basically VS Code telling us that we are not using the stuff that we are importing. Okay, so it's fine because we will be using them later. So we can ignore the red curly underline or lines for now. Right, so now that we have created our two new screens, okay, we will need to set up the navigation for them. Right, so head over to our navigation folder. Okay, we will create a new file. Let's call this stack navigator.tsx. All right. Right, so over here, okay, we will need to obviously import React. So import asterisk as React from React itself. All right. Okay, we will also need to import create native stack navigator, right, from React navigation, right? So this is something that we will use soon, okay? And using that, okay, we will say constant stack, okay, equals to create native stack navigator, all right? Save that. Okay, now we'll use that stack, right, to create the stack navigator itself, right? So this will handle the navigation, right, between different screens or various screens, yeah? Okay, so here we will also need to return. So first thing, let's return stack.navigator, okay? And let's say, okay, and in between the stack.navigator, we need a couple of stack.screens, or just two actually, right? Since we have only two screens. So stack.screen, right? And name equals to home. And you guess it, this will link to our home screen, yeah? So home screen, and you can see that VS Code imports it automatically, yeah? And we also say stack.screen name equals to add node. And the component will be add node screen, yeah? Okay, so we will need to import this as well. Okay, there we go. Okay, and okay, for stack navigator, we need to give it an initial route name, right? So React navigation knows which screen to display right at the start, right? So we'll say initial route name, right? Okay, this will be home, all right, and save. And of course, we need to export the stack navigator. So export default stack navigator, all right, save. Okay, now we'll have to go back to our app.tsx and configure the rest of the navigation stuff. All right, so go back to app.tsx, right, over here. Right, so in order for React navigation to work, right, we need to wrap whatever is in here in a navigation container. All right, so let's say navigation container. Okay, and of course we need to wrap it around. Okay, what we have over here. All right. Save that, and now we can import our newly created stack navigator here and save. Okay, so you see that we have an error here. All right, so let's see how we can fix this. Okay, so it says there's a render error. Okay, so if we go back to our stack navigator, okay, let's change this to double quotes, yeah, and save. All right, so you can see that there's an error here. So most likely we might need to restart the app, right? So let's go back to our terminal to do so. Right, so over here in our terminal, okay, let's clear it because it's a lot of text in the console itself. And let's do react-native space run iOS. All right. So we'll be back once the app is up and running again. All right, we're back. Okay, let's take a look at our iOS simulator. All right. So you can see that the app is up and running now, and you can see by default, the home screen is shown or displayed. Yeah. All right. So if you want to change that, okay, here in the initial route name, you can say add node, save. Right, and add node appears instead. All right. Yeah, so but for now, obviously we want home to be displayed first. All right. Okay. But you might notice that there is an area here which displays the name of the current screen you're at, kind of like a navigation menu bar right at the top. Okay, and we do not want that because we want to customize the appearance of our app. So because of that, we can say screen options. All right, and we'll say header, okay, shown, and let's say false. All right, and save. Okay, now that header is gone. Right, so this will allow us to customize the app further. Yeah. All right. Moving on, okay, let's go back to our home screen. Okay, so now we'll begin to add stuff to our home screen. So obviously we need two things. Okay, a list to display the nodes and a button that will allow you to link or navigate to the add node screen. All right, so let's remove this. Okay, this hello from home screen, remove that. All right. And we'll say, okay, this is where we'll start to use Tailwind as well. So let's say class name goes to flex column, and we want the entire height to be occupied by our home screen view. Save that. Okay, nothing is going to change because we haven't really added anything yet. Okay, next, okay, we're going to add a button. Okay, we're going to say touchable opacity, right? So this is how you can add a button in React Native as well, right? So touchable opacity, let's say all right, let's say we want to just display a plus sign, right? And of course, okay, we want the background color of the button to be blue, say blue, yeah. We can say class name. So using this class name is just part of native Win, yeah. Maybe height of 16, background of blue. All right, you can see VS Code has this squarish indication of the color, so that's helpful. Right, we want the width to be, let's say, 16 as well, right? So it's a square, okay, but it will be rounded, right? So rounded, full. And let the text be in the center, and maybe some padding on the right. I mean, position and right, and absolute. Right. Okay. Okay, and we want to wrap this button, okay, in a view. Right, so it's easier for us to manage as well. Right, so once again, a view is just a div in React Native. All right, so same thing here, class name. and we'll say flex row absolute. Absolute meaning that we want it to be in an absolute position, and we want it all the way at the bottom. So bottom 0, maybe some padding along the x-axis. So px-5, we want the entire width of your screen. All right, and maybe just height 20. Yeah, and of course centralize the text once again. Right, save that. All right, and let's do the styling for the text as well. Right, so text center, centralize the text. All right, some padding along the y-axis. Give it a white colored font, right? And maybe, okay, let's not make it too bold. And let's increase the font size, right? Let's save that. All right, so since we have an error, and that is because our VS Code has automatically imported touchable opacity from React Native gesture handler, right? Where we should be using it from React Native itself, right? Save that. And the next thing that we have to do is let's go back to our tailwind.config.js, and over here, okay, instead of custom folder, let's say app, right? Save. And let's restart the app. All right, and we'll be back once we have restarted the app. All right, and let's give our app a white background. So bg-white, save that, and you see all the way at the bottom right corner, okay, we have our blue button, right, which we'll set up later to link to the add node screen. All right, okay, so before that, okay, we will create a new component, okay, for our nodes list. Okay, so over here, okay, we'll say nodes list. Okay, so obviously, okay, we have not created this yet. So let's not save this home screen for now. Okay, but let's go to our components. Okay, and in our components, okay, we're going to create a new folder, right? Let's call this nodes. All right. And in nodes, okay, obviously we're going to create a new file. Let's call this nodeslist.tsx, right? Okay, so for nodes list, okay, what we'll do is obviously once again create our component using rnfc. Okay, and nodes list props, and this will be nodes list. All right. Okay, and let's return an empty view for now. Okay. Okay, and okay, we do have some sample data here that we can display. All right. Okay, so I'm going to copy an array of nodes over here so that we can display in our nodes list, right? Just to show you how you can display items in a list. All right. So let me just paste that. Okay. So you can see over here we have copy and pasted a nodes data array of type node, which we have not created as well. Okay, you can see that we have ID, title, and content. Yeah, so we need to create this node type, okay, because we are using TypeScript. All right, so to do that, okay, let's go to our data folder. All right, our data folder, and let's create a new file. Okay, and let's call this types.ts, right? And we'll say export interface node. And okay, we need a string, remember. Okay, we also need the title itself. And we need the content of the node itself, right? So save that. And let's go back to our nodes list. And here we can import this node, yeah? Okay, VS Code should give us this option to import. Okay, there we go. So that should import, right, the node here, okay, from the types that we just created. All right. All right, so we're going to save that. Okay, nothing is going to happen because we haven't added the list. We haven't actually added the list to be displayed in the nodes list yet. All right. So to do so, we are going to say, okay, we're going to add a flat list, okay, in between our view. All right, so flat list. All right, and let's close this here. So there are a few important things to know about flat lists is that you need to pass in data, right? So obviously our data for now will be nodes data. Okay, you also need to pass in a render item method. Okay, we'll create this soon. And lastly, you need a key extractor, right? So you can think of this as a way to allow React Native to differentiate between each and every item in the list. Yeah. So essentially, we're just using the item's ID here, yeah, as the key. All right. So now let's create that render item method here, okay, that will be used by this list. All right. So because, okay, we're using TypeScript, okay, we will need to import list render item from React Native and pass in the type node, yeah, because we are using TypeScript and we want the app to know that we are using the type node, yeah. So here, okay, we'll say return node item, right? So this will be another new component that we will be creating, okay, after this, yeah. Okay, so id equals to item.id. Okay, so this is from our TypeScript, yeah, from our node type here. All right, so let's go back and title. Okay, item.title, and obviously we need our content as well, item.content, and that's it for now. Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's not save this for now because we have not created our node item yet. Okay, because if we save this now, okay, most likely we'll get an error in the app. All right. So let's go back to our folder directly here on the left. Okay, and let's create a new file. Let's call this node item.tsx. All right. Okay, so once again, let's create a new component. Let's call this node item. All right. Okay, so this is where we will display the information for each node individually. Yeah. So first thing first, okay. Okay, let's display the information that we have. So once again, we will be wrapped in text. Yeah, so there will be title. Okay, and of course, we can get the title from the props. So props.title. And you can see that there's an error because it says that it doesn't exist on type. And this props is actually from here, node item props. So we actually need to define the title here. Right, you can see that the error is gone. Okay, so that means we also need the ID as well, the content as well, yeah? So that we can display the content as well. All right, so let's do text and of course props.content. All right, we'll save that and let's go back to our nodes list. Okay, here let's import our node item, yeah. All right, and let's save that. All right, so now that we have added our node item component, yeah. Okay, let's go back to our home screen. And now that we have added our nodes list component, okay, we can import it, yeah. And let's save that. Okay, you can see that we have an error because we haven't imported flat list from React Native. So let's do that. Okay, we are back in our nodes list component. Right, let's import that from React Native. Right, save that. And there we go. You can see that the list of items have appeared, right, on the iOS simulator running our app. Okay, but obviously we want to make it look nicer. Right, so let's go back to our node item component and let's style it properly. Yeah. Okay, so first thing first. Okay, let's style the wrapping view, or the biggest view here, right, on this line. Okay, obviously using native Wind. Right, so first thing, let's say maybe some padding on the x-axis, same for the y-axis, maybe some margin as well, okay, along the x and y-axis. Okay, what else do we need? Okay, maybe some border at the bottom. Yeah, so border dash b dash blue, let's say 200. Okay, and the width of the border at the bottom, let's say 0.5, and flex row. Yeah. Okay, we will also need to wrap the two title and content, right, between, rather in between another view or in another view, and let's style that properly as well. Right, so we'll say flex column, and maybe some padding from the right. Save that. Okay, now you'll see that the list, right, there are proper spacing and white space between each item or node in the nodes list, right? So it looks slightly better now, all right? Okay, but you see that it is quite close to the top. Yeah, so that is why we will have to make some changes to the nodes list itself. Yeah. So let's go back to nodes list. Okay, right? Right, and this view here, okay, let's style it. So class name equals to flex1, maybe some margin at the bottom as well. Save that. All right, so we can see that it is quite close to the top. So maybe for the flat list and the view wrapping the flat list, let's give it some padding at the top. Let's say 4. Okay, maybe 12. Right, there we go. Right, so if we do some scrolling here, right, you can see that it disappears before it reaches the top. Yeah. So there's some spacing in between the top and the bottom. All right. Okay, now we need to link, right, this button over here, right, that I am clicking on now, okay, to our add node screen. Yeah. So let's do that. Okay, so let's go back to our home screen, right? And because we're using TypeScript, okay, we will need to import some things from React Navigation in order for us to link and navigate to the add node screen. Right, so first thing first, let's go to our navigation folder over here, and let's create a new file. Let's call this stack types.ts, right? And here we'll say export type. Let's call this stack param list, all right? And we'll say home. This will be undefined, it's fine. And add nodes, right? So this is for React Navigation to know of the existing screens, yeah? So let's go back to home screen, yeah? All right, and here, okay, we will need to import use navigation, right? So okay, use navigation from React Navigation, right? This is something we will use. Okay, and we also need to import stack navigation prop from React Navigation as well. And lastly, we will need to import our stack parent list, right? So import, right, stack parent list from, okay, navigation stack types. All right, save. Okay, and okay, we'll need to define the type, the navigation prop type, so that React Navigation knows that we are, or where we are at and where we want to navigate to. So we'll say type home screen prop. Yeah, since we're at home screen, yeah, equals to stack navigation prop. All right, and this will be of type stack permanent list, which we just created, yeah, and comma, and we are at home. All right, and save. Okay, and lastly, okay, we just need to say constant navigation equals to use navigation. Okay, we imported this, remember? Yeah, and we'll say home screen. Okay, we'll say home screen prop. Right, and save. All right, so now, okay, we can make full use of this navigation that we just created, okay, to navigate to the add node screen. Okay, so let's create a new arrow function, and let's call this go to add node. Right, and we'll say navigation dot navigate add node. Right, so this add node here is very important. Okay, it is case sensitive, right, and it should correspond to your stack navigator here. This name here, right, it must be the same so that React navigation knows that you want to navigate to the add node screen here. All right, so let's go back to our home screen. All right, so now in order for us to link our button, right, to this go to add node arrow function, okay, all we have to do is just go to our touchable opacity here, space, say on press, and we'll say go to add node save. All right, okay, with that, so what happens, or rather what is going to happen here is when we click or tap on this button here, right, notice that we have navigated to the add node screen. And we can know that we are at the add node screen by typing or rather displaying any random stuff here. For example, you can say add node screen, save. Okay, you can see that we're at the add node screen at the top here, yeah. All right, let's remove that. Okay, so now we'll start to work on the add node screen, yeah. All right, so first thing first, let's do some styling, right, in order to get things started. All right, so let me just move this here, yeah. Okay, so we will need to start starting from this root view. So class name equals to, let's do flex column and the entire height, yeah. So for example, if I were to say bg-blue-700, save, you'll see that the entire background is now in blue, yeah. Obviously, we are not going to do that, but this is just to show you that Tailwind is working as expected, yeah. All right, so next, okay, let's display, say, add new node, right, in maybe in the middle of the screen, right? So let's do that. All right, so first thing first, let's maybe have some padding from the top so that it will be somewhere in the middle, yeah. And let's display the text. We'll say add new node, save. Right, so you see that add new node has appeared, okay, but obviously it is quite not visually appealing, yeah. So we will need to make some changes for that, okay, by adding class name here, obviously. Okay, and we'll say text -5XL. So this will increase the font size of the add new node, yeah. So, and we'll make the text blue. So text -blue-500, save. Okay, that's quite big. Let's make some padding on the left. And maybe give it an extra light, yeah. Okay, so that's nice, yeah. Right, next we need two text fields or text inputs, yeah. One for the title and one for the content itself. All right, So first, okay, let's do a view to wrap around our text input. Yeah. So we'll have a text input here from React Native. Okay. And we'll say placeholder. Let's start with title. All right. And the class name. Okay, we want the entire width. All right. So w-full. All right. And maybe some border at the bottom. So border -b -gray -400 and border -b -0.5. Right, save. Right, so you'll see a very faint text field appear. Okay, but we want some spacing on the left and right. Yeah, so we'll say we'll style this wrapping view around the text input. Yeah, so once again, w-full. And w-full is basically the full width. And we'll say, give us some padding on the x-axis. Right, so save that. You can see that now, right, it looks better with some spacing on the left and right along the x-axis. Yeah. Okay, we want some spacing from the add new node as well. Yeah, so it looks better, right? So there we have our title. Okay, next let's add our okay, you know what? It seems like the title is quite close to the underline. So we're gonna say padding at the bottom, maybe 2. Okay, that looks much better, yeah. All right, so we're gonna copy this and paste it here, and this will be content instead. Yeah, content. Yeah. Okay, and maybe we'll say padding 8. Yeah. Okay, this looks good. All right, padding from the top 8. Yeah. All right. Okay, so now that we have our 2 text fields or text inputs, okay, we need a button. Yeah. So once again, touchable opacity. Right, so make sure we import that from React Native. So touchable opacity. Right, save that. Right, so we will also wrap it around a view, or rather use a view to wrap around it. All right. Okay, so over here, touchable opacity. All right. Okay, and of course we need text, yeah, to display the add node text in the button, yeah, or maybe just add, right? Something simple, yeah, just add, save, right? You see that small add appears here. That's because we haven't done any styling yet, yeah. All right, let's style the button first. So class name equals to say height 16. Background blue, save. Okay, you can see that, okay, a blue background appears for the button, yeah. Okay, we want it to be the entire width, okay. We want it to be rounded as well, right? So the corners will be rounded, yeah. And of course, we want the text to be in the center. Okay. So notice that it's weird because it's touching the left and right edges of the screen. So to fix that, let's do some styling for the wrapper view, okay, which is why we have a view wrapping the button. So we'll say flex, right? Flex column, maybe some padding or margin from the top, some padding along the x-axis, all right? Okay, we want the entire width. Height, and of course, once again, text center. All right. Okay, so for the styling of the text itself, which is over here, okay, so text will be styled. Okay, so we need some contrast, right? So right now, the button is blue, but it's not exactly bright blue, and the text itself is black. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to read it, and which is why we need some contrast, and we're going to change the color of the text, right? Which is why we're going to say text dash white. Yeah. If you save that, you can see that the ad becomes white. Yeah, so now you can see it better. Okay, but obviously we can even improve on that. So text center, some padding from the top, right, or rather along the y-axis. Let's increase the font size and maybe make it slightly interesting. Maybe just light, maybe not extra light. Yeah. Okay, this is better. Yeah. All right, so that's our add button. Okay, so now what if we want to go back or back? Yeah. Okay, we want to go back to the previous screen. Okay, so for that we need a cancel button, right, or close button. Yeah. So we're going to copy the touchable opacity that we have here. Okay, instead of add, I'm going to say cancel. And instead of a blue background, let's remove that. Okay, we do not need a background. And the text will be black. Save that. Okay, and we will also give it a blue. Rather, let's make the text blue. Yeah, it looks nicer actually. Okay, and we also need to give it a blue border. Yeah. So that will be here. Let's say border dash blue dash 500. Save. And we need border, right? So this will tell the app to give it a 1 pixel worth of border width. Save that. And maybe some spacing from the top. And there you have our cancel button. Yeah. Okay, now we need to link our cancel button to our previous screen. Yeah, which is our home screen. So once again, we're going to do the same thing here. Okay, we need to import the use navigation and whatnot from React navigation. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to copy from our home screen, since we already have that, right? This will save us time. Okay, we're just going to copy everything there and paste it here. And let's go back to our home screen, and we're going to copy this as well. And we're going to change this to add node screen prop. Yeah. Obviously, this will be small a, and this will be add node. Yeah. Okay, so we can do the same thing for this as well. All right, and instead of home screen prop, we will say add node home screen. Yeah, and let's create a new arrow function called back to home. And we'll say navigation.navigate home. All right, save that. And we'll use this new back to home function, and we'll give it to our cancel button here. So on press equals to back to home. Right, save that. Okay, now what will happen if we click on our cancel button here? Right, so if we click on it, notice that now we are back in our home screen. And if we click on our add button here, it will go to our add new node screen. Yeah. So we have successfully linked the two screens together via React navigation. Yeah. So the next step is actually saving and loading data. Right. So because right now we have this UI here, which will allow us to add a new node. So what we want to do is to actually add a new node, save it in your mobile app, using React Native MMKV, and have it be loaded and displayed here as part of the list here. Yeah, so let's get right to it. Okay, so first thing first, let's go back to our home screen. Right, in our home screen, we will make some changes. Okay, not just to our home screen, but also to our nodes list as well. So we notice that nodes list, we are displaying this list of nodes, okay, which are actually from this long list of nodes that we created, right? But this is static data. Yeah, so this is not something you would see, okay, in real life. Yeah, so which is why this is just for testing purposes. Right, so let's comment or remove that out, yeah. Since we are not going to use this, we are not going to use that at all, right? Right, so save, okay, we'll get an error because we just remove it, yeah. Okay, now, okay, we are going to keep track of the nodes data using useState, right, as provided by React Native. Yeah, and we can do so, okay, by saying constant nodes, right, data, and set nodes data, right, equals to useState end of type nodes. And because it is a list of nodes, right, it is an array, and we will initialize it with an empty array, right? Save that. And now you'll see that nothing is being displayed in the app. And that is because there's nothing in nodes data, yeah? All right, so next, before we actually move on to adding the add node feature, right, to our add nodes screen here, okay, we need to set up our data saving and loading using React Native MMKV. So let's go. All right, so the next thing that we have to do is let's go to our data directory and let's create a new file, right? And let's call this mmkv.ts. I mean, the name itself doesn't matter, okay, but this is what I will call it. All right, so let's import mmkv, okay, from React-native-mmkv. So once again, this is what we will be using to load and save data for your React Native app, right? And we will export constant storage equals to new mmkv. Yeah, so this will allow you to use the same storage, right? Instead of constantly recreating a new mmkv, right? Save that. Okay, and next, okay, we're going to create a new file, right? And let's call this data loader.tsx. Right, so this is where we will actually create the various functions for your app to load and save data. All right. So first thing first, okay, we need to import, right, our newly created storage, right, from mmkv, right, the file that we just created, okay. And okay, since we are working with data here and TypeScript, okay, TypeScript needs to know that we are working with nodes, yeah, types, right? Save that. Okay, so the first thing that we can do here is to load data. So let's create a function here. Let's say export constant load data, right? And let's see. Okay, let's call it load on nodes instead, yeah? So it'll be easier from our screens, yeah? So load nodes equals to, right? And we'll say constant existing equals to storage.get string, yeah? And we'll say nodes. So what is happening here is, okay, we are trying to get some data from our storage, okay, using the key nodes, yeah? So for mmkv, you can save things in it using a key and then the value that you pass in, right? Later we'll show you how it's done as well. Right, so over here we're just saying, hey, try to get some data that uses the key nodes. All right. So if it exists, right, if existing, just return a the object version of it. So we need to reverse it, okay, because mmkb, all right, you can only store primitive data types, right? So for example, string, integer, booleans, yeah. So json.parse existing, yeah. Okay, if not, right, return an empty array, yeah. So save. All right. Okay, let's go back to our nodes list, yeah, and we will set up the link to our data loader here. All right. So first thing first, okay, we want the data to be loaded every time the screen is focused on. So for example, maybe we are at the add node screen here. If we have added a new node and okay, the app brings us back to this home screen, right? The list should be automatically updated. Yeah. So for that, right, okay, we will need to use an use effect. All right. And we will need to say update the list. Okay, obviously we have not created this update list method yet. So let's do that. Right. So constant update list, right, equals to, okay, our arrow function. Okay. We'll say constant data equals to load nodes. Right. So this load nodes is from our data loader. Yeah. And we'll say set nodes data. And that's it. Yeah. Oh, okay. So since we have a typo, and this will be mmkv, right? Save that. Okay, and our error should be gone. All right. So you might wonder, okay, how come we are not seeing anything there? And that is because we do not have any data in our storage. All right. So before we move on to adding or saving data using mmkv or our data loader or the add node screen, okay, we have to finish this first. Okay. Okay, so React navigation provides a very useful helper hook, right? It's called use is focus, right? So over here, okay, we can say import, right? Use is focus from React dash navigation, right? Add React dash navigation slash native, right? Okay, and we can call that to give us, okay, what we need, right, to tell if the current screen has been just focused on, right? So is focus equals to use is focus, right? So whenever use is, or rather whenever is focus has been changed, right, we will check to see if it is true. If it is true, we will call update list. All right. So now that that is done, okay, let's go back to our data loader. All right, our data loader here, and now we will add a new method which will allow us to save a node, yeah, or save a new node to the app. All right, so let's say export constant save new node, right? Okay, we need the node itself as the parameter, right? So once again, okay, let's try to get what we have from the storage first. So storage.get string nodes. All right, so by default, we'll say, okay, let's have an empty nodes array, right? I mean, this is just in case we do not have anything in. Okay, looks like we are missing an arrow. Okay, that's our fault. All right. Yeah, so this is just in case we do not have anything in the storage. And so if we already have something in the storage, we'll say nodes array equals to json.parse existing. Yeah. And we'll say nodes array equals to ... or rather, okay, nodes array and node. Right, so this is one way of adding an item to a list. Yeah. And lastly, we'll save it back to mmkv. So we'll say storage.set back in the same key, which is nodes. Right, this is very important, and it is case sensitive. Yeah. And of course, once again, for mmkb, we can only store primitive data types. So string, integer, or booleans. Yeah. So which is why we need a json.stringify and nodes array. Save. All right. Now let's go back to our home screen, or rather our add node screen. Yeah. So over here, right, this is where we will link the new method that we have just created in our data loader. Yeah. Right, so let's create a new method here. Let's call this add new nodes. All right. And maybe we'll put it below back to home. Yeah. Since back to home is kind of navigation back, yeah, to the previous screen. Yeah. All right, let's navigate to our add new node screen here. Okay, so essentially what we need here is two values. Once again, the title and the content for us to create the nodes. Okay, but for that to happen, we need to keep track of the title and the content itself. Right, so for that, we need to use useState as provided by React. Right, so useState. Okay, I do have a code snippet set up for useState. Right, so this will be title, set title. Right, same thing here. Content, set content. All right, save that. Okay, and let's go to our text input or text fields. Okay, and we'll say value equals to title. Same thing for our content text field, right? Value equals to title, right? Right, that should be content actually. Save. Right, so now if we type anything, right, notice that, right, notice something weird here. Right, as we keep on typing or spamming our keyboard, right, it auto deletes itself. Right, so what is happening here? And this is because we are not updating the value of title yet. Yeah. So to do that, right, okay, we can say on change text, right, in text input. All right. And this will give us the new text that we are typing. And we can say set title text. Save that. And now whenever we type something here, right, it works. Like finally, man. Yeah. So let's do the same thing for the content text field. Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to copy and paste. And this will be set content. Right, save that. Okay, and now we can type anything in the content text field as well. All right. So now we just need those two information. Okay, and we should be able to create our new nodes. All right. Okay, so in this add new node arrow function, let's say constant new nodes of type nodes. Remember that. And obviously we need the ID to be unique. Right, so we need to use UUID. Right, so let's import that. Okay, so we have already installed this previously. Right, so all the way at the top, let's say import UUID from React-native-UUID, right? Save. And let's go back to our add new node here, right? So this will be UUID.version. Let's use version 4, yeah? Okay, so we need the title, right? There will be just title and content, yeah. Right, so those are the three, right? Those are the three things you need to create a new node. All right, and using this new node, we'll say save new node that we have created from our data loader here. Yeah, we're just passing the new nodes. Yeah. Okay, and once that is done, we'll back to home. Okay, we'll go back to home, the home screen. Yeah, save that. Okay, and now watch what happens right when we try to add a new node. So let's say this is node number 1, and let's say we are testing the adding of a new node. Okay, so if we click on the or tap on the add button here, add, right, notice that nothing happens, right, and that is because we have not linked this add new node to our add button here, right, which is here. All right, so we'll say on press equals to add new node. Yeah, save. Okay, so this will be our first node. Okay, let me just change the title. Okay, and this will be our content for our first node. Right, so watch what happens when we click on the add button here. Right, so notice now we are back in the home screen and we have our first node appearing all the way at the top. All right, okay, now let's try to add a second node and watch what happens. Right, so this will be node 2, and this is for node 2 content. Now if we tap on the add button again, right, notice that node 2 appears below node 1. Yeah, so even though this might be just my preference, okay, but I would suggest, right, you to have the new nodes, right, the newer nodes appear at the top instead. Yeah, and because of that, okay, we'll have to make some changes, right? So let's go back to our data loader. Yeah, okay, data loader, and here instead of saying nodes array equals to nodes array comma nodes, okay, we'll reverse that. Right, we'll put the new nodes in front of what we have. So save that. Okay, and now let's try to add a third node. Yeah, okay, so this will be node third, no pun intended. Yeah, and content, this will be noted content for third node. Okay, and once we add this, right, notice that the third node now appears at the top, right, at the first index. Yeah, so in a way, I'll say this is better because usually you want the latest content to appear all the way at the top. Yeah, right, so let's try to add another node once again. So node 4th, right, may the force be with you. Right, so let's add. Okay, so you'll notice that node 4th appear at the top as well. All right, but right now it seems to be working. I mean, it is working fine. Okay, but okay, from my personal and professional opinion, okay, what differentiates a regular mobile app from a good mobile app is the addition of animations. Yeah, okay, but we're not talking about like overly obvious and big animations. We're talking about the small things that matter. Yeah, so this is where React Native Reanimated comes in. Yeah, okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to animate, okay, the new item that appears, okay, whenever you have just added a new node. Yeah, right, so to do so, go back. Right, let's go back to our node item here. All right, and we will have to make some changes here. Right, so first thing first, okay, we will need to import some things from React Native Reanimated. Right, so first thing, import, right, animated. Okay, we will also need use shared value. So let's do that as well. Use shared value. Right, from React-native-reanimated. All right. Okay, what else do we need? All right, save that first. All right, let's save that. Okay, first thing first. Okay, let's create an offset. We'll say use shared value. Right. So we'll use this offset to make a simple up and down, right? Up and down animation that will be played whenever, right, the new item appears. Yeah. Okay. So for React Native Reanimated, okay, I mean, this is just one way, but we can create animations using animated styles, which is why we need to import that as well. So use animated style. All right. So over here, let's say constant animated styles equals to use animated style. All right. And we have an arrow function here. Okay, we'll say return transform. Okay, because we want to move it in a way. This is a transformation along, let's say up and down, that will be y-axis. So translate. Right, of course, we need an array here and a curly bracket. So translate, let's say y, right? And this y will be affected by the value that we have here, right? So later, once we modify this offset value, right, this transform, right, this y-axis, right, will be affected and it will move along with it, yeah? Okay, maybe let's do opacity as well. So opacity, okay, I guess we need another value as well. So let's say opacity value equals to use shared value. So opacity value means that we'll be playing around with fading in, yeah? So opacity value starts from 0 to 1. 0 means totally transparent, and 1 means you can see it 100%, yeah? So opacity value dot value, right? Save that. Okay, next. Okay, we want this animation to appear when this component is mounted, yeah? Or rather this animation to run. Okay, so we'll say use effect. Okay, and we'll say on appear. Right, so this on appear method will be where we create our animation. So constant on appear. All right. So now we need to import two more things from React Native Reanimated. So we need with sequence because we want the newly created node to move a certain way. So that means we need to chain, right, a few different animations together, okay, one after the other, which is why we can use with sequence. And of course with timing as well, because we want to control how long it takes for each animation. All right. So over here, right, to start the animation, all you have to do is to modify the value, right? The shared values that we created here and here, right? So for example, to start the moving up and down animation, we'll say offset.value equals to with sequence, right? And inside with sequence, we can have a few animations. So let's make it move up first, down, up, down, right? So 4 animations. So let's say with timing -10, right? So that will make it move up. Yeah. Right. And duration 400. So this is in milliseconds, right? Comma. Okay. So 4 animations. So this is just one. Okay. I'm going to copy and paste that. And let's say 5 along the y-axis. This will be -5, the reverse. And this will be 0, right? Back to the original position. Yeah, and let's change the duration here for slightly varied animation, so it doesn't look to be too linear. Yeah, so it's slightly more interesting. Yeah. Right, and to fade in the newly created nodes. Over here, we'll say opacity value dot value equals to with timing. So basically, for the fading in, we'll just make it linear. Yeah. So we'll fade in all the way to 1. It starts from 0. Remember that. With a duration of 400 milliseconds. Yeah. Save that. All right. Now the most important part is, okay, this will not work unless, okay, we change this view here, right, to animated.view, right? And that's how we can leverage on React Native Reanimated. Okay, but of course, just one more thing. Okay, in order for React Native Reanimated to have the animations working here properly, okay, we need to give it the style, which is the animated styles that we created just now. Yeah, so save that, and you might notice that the entire list suddenly moves. Yeah. Okay, so now watch what happens when we create a new node or add a new node. Yeah. So this will be node maybe X. Yeah. And let's say node X content, blah, blah. Right. So pay attention to what happens at the top of the list once we tap or press on the add button. Right. Notice that the newly created node appears in an elastic up and down animation that we just created. And I can assure you that this is 60 frames per second because React Native Reanimated runs on the UI thread. Yeah. Okay. Once again, let's add another node to show you how it looks like again. So content 2, add. Right. You can see that simple animation that we just added, right, makes a huge difference, right? And it makes your app more lively and interactive as well. All right. So this is how you can create a React Native app from scratch using things such as React Navigation to link or navigate between your screens, and also React Native Reanimated, right, to give life to your mobile apps, right? So I hope this has been helpful and entertaining as well. And as always, stay awesome and stay safe, everyone, and look forward to our next videos. Cheers, man.